All right, Utah fans, what is up? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and we had some very exciting news this evening. Pete Thamel of ESPN has reported that Andy Ludwig will be returning to Utah. Notre Dame decided not to pursue him after the buyout became an issue, according to Pete Thamel. But I thought this was a great opportunity to take a step back and talk about the good and the bad that we're getting in Andy Ludwig. A lot of good. And I would even say, as I broke him down and really started to take a second look at who he is as a coordinator over these past, you know, couple of days, it really made me appreciate what he's brought to Utah and made me think, maybe he's not just good. I'd put him in like the very good category. And I know it's easy to say now that he said he's returning to Utah, but I have been thinking about it for a couple days now. And I do think he's a very good coordinator. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons, where he strives, where he could do better. But either way, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about Andy Ludwig. All right, and to get the best look at how Andy Ludwig has really done and what we're getting with him as the coordinator, I think the most accurate seasons to look at are going to be these past two, right? So we start with 2021, which was the year that started with Charlie Brewer and became Cam Rising's big breakout year. And then we go into this year we just had where, we won, then that was back to back conference championships in these 2 years. So let's go ahead and start with the 2021 offense. So in 2021 on offense, Utah was, let me pull it up here. Utah was 13th in the country in points per game. Now, that is very good to great. I would say that's great, bordering on elite. That's an extremely good offense, consistently putting up points, and with a solid defense can win, almost any game. So that's really good there. So really good points per game. That's 13th in the country, 35.8 points per game. Now, when we look at yards per game, the story's a little different. And I would say, there's the caveat here, which is saying you put up a lot of points. The yards aren't always super important if you're getting a ton of points with the yards you're getting. So they were 39th in the country in 2021 for Utah's offense at 429.8 yards per game. So definitely not bad. I'd say it's above average to good, not quite great or anything like that, but a good offense in yards per game, consistently putting up yards. And then we look at the number 13 in points per game. I think the best way to look at it is you kind of take the average of those two, right? You're looking at like low 20s or mid 20s maybe. So I'd say it's a very good offense. I don't know if I'd say it's elite overall. But I would lean more towards points. So I'd say very good to great offense in 2021 for Andy Ludwig. Not elite, but very good to great, right? All right, now how are we getting those yards? So as is always a staple with the Utah offense, Utah's offense is averaging in 2021 we averaged 219.2 219.2 rushing yards per game. As usual, we love to pound the rock, and I think that has been a great staple with Andy Ludwig. Really pounds the rock, sets the tone, and allows our running backs to get open and make space. So that's really good. I'd say it's a great rushing offense. So extremely good there. And then we got passing yards per game. Now, passing yards per game in 2021, a little bit of a different story here, right? Not exactly what you wanted to see. Now, I do want to preface before I give the number that Charlie Brewer started the first few games and really struggled. So that has to be accounted for. But uh, still, we were 85th in the country in 2021 in passing yards per game at 210.6 passing yards per game. So overall, not very good in passing. I'd say when you really look at that, that explains the yards per game, right? Yes, if we're up and we're running the ball a lot, that's milking the clock. And a lot of people, I'm sure, are already at this moment typing in the comments that we would have passed the ball more had we not run so well. It's like, yeah, sure, dude. But there's losses in both of these in 2021 and 2022 if we had the passing offense to get it done, maybe those aren't losses. Because and I know this is being nitpicky, but the truth is there's a reason we were 85th in the country at passing offense. Like, yeah, sure. Maybe that's a little inflated in how bad it was. Maybe it's more like 60th in the country at passing yards. But that's still not where we want to be. Okay. So far, like I said, Andy Ludwig, 2021 season, very good. Not quite great or elite, but very good. All right, now let's move on to the most recent season. That's the 2022 season. And we're going to start with, the most important category there is points per game. And again, Utah very good in this category. Finished at number 14 with 36 points per game. Very good there. That's a high scoring offense, high flying offense. Very good to see there. So now let's take a look at in 2022 what was our yards per game. So this season was a lot better, right? And where these two average in yards per game, we were 20th and 456.8 yards. That's very good, right? Borderline great. And you average the two of those, that's a great borderline elite offense. So very good there. 2022 again, a very good season and a little more well-rounded by Andy Ludwig in his play calling. Rushing yards per game in 2022. Again, a stellar rushing offense, 215.5 rushing yards per game, which put us right smack dab at number 11. I believe that's what we were in 2021 as well, at 215.5 rushing yards per game. So, borderline elite rushing offense. And the truth is, when you look at rushing offense, just so you guys know, I would say at rushing offense, we basically are elite. I'll give us that, because when you look at who's above us, I mean, there's always the military schools up here. Navy, Army, and Air Force make up 3 out of the top 4. And then you got like a UAB, Central Florida. So like out of Power 5, we're top 5. So I'd say it's an elite rushing offense. And then we look at passing yards per game. Definitely a better season for Utah than before. Yeah, so where we were 85th the season before, this year we were 51st at 241.3 yards per game. So the top half of the country. And like we said on the last thing going over 2021, that's probably slightly worse than it really is because we're running the ball so well. So let's, you bump that up. That's, number 30-ish. It's a very good team by Andy Ludwig. And I would say 2022 was his closest year to being elite. And there's a reason he's getting attention from top tier blue blood programs like a Notre Dame. That's a good thing for us that our coordinators getting attention from teams like that. So that's kind of what we're getting from Andy Ludwig. A lot of good numbers, a lot of good stats. Definitely not disappointed in the type of numbers he puts up. The passing game overall could be a little better, but great numbers overall. Not quite elite, but great. I'd put this past year as a great offense. Those really good numbers. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about what he does really well and what he could really improve on going into 2023. All right, so the first big positive of Andy Ludwig is he's able to use basically whatever running back you give him, right? So we look here. Utah had 5 rushers that rushed for over 300 yards. That's very good. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of teams out there that had 5+ rushers that rushed for over 300 yards. And the reason I point that out is, one, it means we're good at running the football, but two, it means when running backs get injured, we dealt with a lot of running back injuries and, off the field issues last year. When they get injured, he is able to, subsidize or, supplement it and get other good players in there, because it's just a credit to his offense. We know how to run the ball no matter who's back there. And all 5 of those ball carries, it's not like they were force fed the ball. They all averaged 4.6 yards or better per carry, and 2 of them over 6 yards, 6 yards per carry or higher in Cam Rising and Jaquindon Jackson, and Mekhi Bernard at 5 yards per carry. Now, with that, of those 5 running backs we're talking about, or 5 rushers, we had one guy with 360, one guy with 465. The other three, and one of those is a quarterback in Cam Rising. So we had three running backs rush for 500 plus, Tavion for 687, and he didn't even play a whole year. So very good there, right? It knows how to use a stable of running backs, which makes this an attractive school to running backs, right? You're like, okay, even if I'm the third guy at Utah, I'm getting 400 yards a game. I don't mind that for my freshman, sophomore year while I get my feet under me, right? Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that same sort of situation in 2021. You can see here, um, another really similar situation. Not five guys. He had four guys go over 499 yards or more, but it was really he had three guys that just killed it with TJ Pledger, Mekhi Bernard, and Tavion. Definitely, he's turned us into a school that's really attractive to running backs, right? I don't think there's any debating that. The other thing is receiving for tight ends. If you're a tight end, I mean, and you're a really good tight end, he's going to make you look like a superstar. Dalton Kincaid, 890 yards. Brent Keithy, 206 yards, but he was averaging over 50 yards a game before he got injured. So, really good look there. And then in 2021, again, really good with receiving tight ends. If you are a tight end that wants to go and rack up yards, we had two receiving tight ends go for over 500 yards, one for over 600 in 2021. Now, where does Ludwig need to improve on offense? Now, to me, it's pretty obvious where he needs to improve on offense. I think a lot of you guys will probably agree. We'll start with 2021, looking at wide receiver production. We only had one wide receiver go over 500 yards, and that was Britton Covey. We had one other wide receiver in Devon Bailey go for 389 yards, but no one else even broke 300 yards. The running back got more, Mekhi Bernard got more receiving yards than any other wide receiver in our roster. So 2021 was a really bad year for connecting with receivers. I think it is clear when you look at those numbers, and we'll look at 2022 as well, that he needs to do a better job with receivers. I do think in 2022, he kind of got the memo, and I also think Devon Bailey stepped up. Devon Bailey got nearly 700 yards with 695 yards, and Money Parks got 414 receiving yards. So not bad there. I would say, though, the fact that Devon Bailey, even though he almost had 700 yards, our only wide receiver to break 500 yards is not a good look. I mean, I think if you're going to be an offense that is putting up the type of numbers that the Utah offense does, you want consistently, seriously, consistently 2 to 3 500 plus yard receivers. I know that's grandiose. I know that's a big goal, but look at the numbers our offense puts up. Why can't we target receivers more? It is sure. I mean, you guys could say I'm a Ludwig hater if you want, but I am telling you, to me, it is concerning that we can't do it. And I think he's getting better at it. But anyone that just ignores this and will not talk about the fact that this offense is not wide receiver friendly at the moment is doing themselves in Utah a disservice. I think it's getting better, but to act like we're there already is just not real right now. I hope next season we see differently. The other thing this season, receiver wise, let's see. Yeah, none of the receivers had more than 5 touchdowns. Devon Bailey was the only one with 5 touchdowns. And then the next best wide receiver touchdowns is 3 with Jalen Dixon. So I'm just saying a lot to be desired out of the wide receivers. I also think, this is offensive line play could be a little more consistent. I know that kind of seems like a reach. And when I say more consistent, I feel like we get there both years, 2021 and 2022. I feel like by the end of the season, we were there and we were looking good with offensive line play. But at the beginning of both years, there was a lot to be desired, right? There were a lot of mistakes and a lot of issues with the offensive line. So I do think that, and that's just, I'm not saying our offensive line is pretty good, but I do think it's a critique that it could be better, especially with how good our offense has done over the past couple of years, and we brought in so much blue chip, or like right under blue chip talent to supplement this offensive line to grow this offense. So hopefully we see more there. All right, guys, and that was the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, please do make sure you like it. It'll help get it out to more Utes fans. Also, make sure you guys comment down below. Do you guys agree with kind of what I'm saying here? And before you guys comment, I would just like to say one thing. I think, in conclusion, I would say Andy Ludwig is a great coordinator right now. He's not without flaws. Some of it's a little nitpicky, but some of the stuff like not throwing to receivers is real and it's legitimate, and it can hold us back from taking that next step as a program to where, maybe high end receivers don't pick Utah because they don't feel like it's an opportunity for them to really showcase their skills. And that's a legitimate criticism. So comment down below what you guys think about that. I do think Andy Ludwig is a great coordinator, and to become elite, that's the next step. Involve wide receivers more in this game. I think he's trying. I think he did a pretty good job last year, but I think he needs to take that next step and really solidify wide receivers in the offense. And before you guys get out of here, please do make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We'll be putting out Utah Utes content all off season and all next year. If you guys love Utah Utes football, this is the place to be. Outside of that, I'm out of here. Go Utes.